As an executive coach, the majority of clients come to me because they're recognizing that their stress response, their emotions, their behaviors are really breaking their career. 4 such clients came to me with very specific issues in their stress response, and the circles exercise was the exercise that broke them free. Now, within 6 months of developing self-regard, kicking imposter syndrome, self-doubt, Nikki was promoted into the chief HR officer role. Within 9 months of developing her assertiveness, speaking up in meetings, pushing back in critical moments, Sarah was promoted to chief client officer. Within 7 months of developing his stress tolerance and empathy skills, CEO Davis dropped out of constant physical pain and into optimized performance. His ratings amongst his executive leadership team went to what would be an abysmal 5 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. And within 10 months of working on emotional self-awareness and impulse control, yes, we heard similar skills with both Nikki and Sarah, and improving communication impact, Mikhail was promoted to Chief Technology Officer. The thread between every single one of these leaders is the experience related to their heightened stress response. They were constantly in states that undermined their intelligence. And because of that, that broke their ability to really succeed within the demands of their role, the daily requirements of their role. And it certainly prevented their advancement. I give the tools to explore the intersection of emotional intelligence and leadership excellence. So for Nikki, Sarah, David, Mikhail, the circles exercise was the breakthrough that every one of them needed. Because instead of focusing on reactive strategies, which is generally the methodology or the recommendations that you'll receive when you look up, how do I handle my stress? I teach a proactive strategy approach, which boosts the baseline level of well-being. And when you do that, you build an armor that protects you from being easily triggered by stress. So when we use reactive stress management strategies, you're already waiting for the stress to arrive and be impacting your performance. And then you're trying to solve or manage, resolve your stress. When you use a proactive approach with the circles exercise, you're actually tackling your state of well-being from the baseline level. And instead of waiting to be stressed out, you're elevating your baseline level of well-being so less things trigger you into stress in the first place. Tara Urich has some empirical data that demonstrates that while 95% of the population believes they're self-aware, when they are assessed, only 10 to 15% meet the actual criteria of self-awareness. And that just generally means that the majority of the population don't really know what they're feeling soon enough to be able to do something about it effectively. So stress builds in ways that negatively impacts their behaviors, their actions, their decision making. And generally what happens is we're behind the 8 ball. So proactive strategies, my strategy around the circles exercise, and make sure you don't fall behind the 8 ball, but rather that you stay ahead of it. Here's what the circles exercise is going to do for you. It's going to elevate your baseline level of well-being because you're going to discover the exact strategies that you need to close the gap between a low level of well-being to a moderate to a high level of well-being. And when you do that, you become less reactive to stress. What's unique about the particular circles exercise is it's not prescriptive. It doesn't tell you what to do to elevate your baseline level of well-being. It guides you so that you figure out exactly what your prescription is, the things that will actually work for you. Generally, when we research this topic, you're going to find things like sleep, meditation, exercise. You get this prescription around what to do to elevate your well-being. I'm going to ask you to figure out what yours is, and then I'm going to ask you to execute on it. So here we go. You need pen and paper for this particular exercise, and we're going to start with this graphic right here. At any point you need to pause the video to catch up with the prompts, do that. So you just start with the center circle with your name in it. Everyone's going to end up with a different number of circles orbiting your name. Generally, this diagram for me means for a moment, just visualize yourself as the center of your universe. Now, before you start populating the circles, I want to ask you a question. When you think about living a life that is fulfilled, really rich, rewarding, robust, when you think of a life where your time and energy, your most precious resources, are spent doing the things that are most important to you, what are you spending your time and energy doing? Who are you spending it with? What are you experiencing? This is what goes in your circles. Before I give you some examples, I want you to just think about your own, a life by design, spending time and energy on what is most important to you, that when you spend that time and energy, you get this kickback of fulfillment, a rich and enjoyable life. What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your energy? So perhaps you automatically thought of hobbies. You may have thought of work. You may have thought of your family and loved ones and friends. You may have thought of your own health. You may have thought of traveling, or perhaps social responsibility like your community and volunteering. You may have thought of your spirituality and religion. You may have thought about traveling. Hobbies like reading or art, culture, or hobbies that are more physical and sport related. Your health could be everything from diet, nutrition, exercising, to massage and chiropractic, but it could also be your spiritual health. Your circles can look any way you want them to look, meaning you could have a circle that says family with little circles off of it that has individual family members named, or you could have a circle for every single person that's important to you, which generally might mean you have lots of circles when you're doing your exercise. After you've populated your circles, I want you to take a scan, and any circle that to you is written down because it feels like it should be important to you, it should be meaningful, or you feel an obligation to have it written down, as if someone were looking over your shoulder at your circles, and if you didn't put something in a circle, they would ask you, why didn't you put your spouse in a circle? Why didn't you put work in a circle? And so you put it down, a should or an obligation. Anything that falls under those two categories, should or obligation, consider removing them from a circle. And instead, just listing them off to the side. Because those may be the things that you spend time and energy on that are actually stealers. You spend so much time and energy on them that they steal from the time and energy that you want to spend in your circles. Now I want you to do another pass around your circles, and every circle that is present day, current state, fulfilled, it's getting the time and energy, you're getting the fulfillment out of it, that those circles get a check mark. And any circle that doesn't feel fulfilled right now, you're not giving it the time and energy you want, gets a star, meaning opportunity. Now, immediately when you do this checkmark star, you may start to have this realization of, that's why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Perhaps that's why I'm stressed out. That's why my well-being is at a lower state. And now I want you to start visualizing, if every circle in your life were fulfilled, what would you feel emotionally? What state of well-being do you think you would be in? If 0 is no well-being and 10 is maximum well-being, if you were fulfilling all of your circles, where would your well-being be at? And try not to answer that question by defending or pushing back or finding the reasons why you can't be doing that. It's not about that right now. It's simply about visualizing where your well-being would be at if the time and energy you have for your life was spent on stuff that was meaningful and important to you. Now, we're not here to leap the chasm. We're not here to suddenly take every circle that you've written down and every single day give all of your time and energy to them so that you can have this fully self-actualized life. Because when you try to leap the chasm, you have to make changes and shifts in your life right now that are just too difficult to sustain. We can't take time from the areas we are, like work. We can't take hours and hours away from work time in order to give to our circles. That's not what this is about. In emotional intelligence, we apply reality testing to this exercise. So objectively, there may be 1 or 2 circles right now that are kind of red light shining at you. They're saying, please pay attention. Give me some time and energy, because your kickback of fulfillment you're going to get out of this is going to be amazing. So I want you to take a look at one circle that is flashing at you. Pay attention to me. And with that circle, I want you to think about, what is a tweak of the dial? If you were to give just a little bit more time to that circle every day this week, how much time could you give that you could hold yourself accountable to, even if that is 5 minutes every day? So for example, if you're looking at your health circle, you're thinking, I got to take better care of myself. I got to start exercising or moving daily. And you're looking at that health circle and you're thinking, I'm not doing any exercise right now, but ideal would be to do an hour. Well, that's a leap of the chasm to start doing an hour of exercise every day. Where are you going to find an hour of time? I mean, if you had it, you'd be doing it. So instead, I want you to think tweak of the dial, because we want incremental movement towards this rich life. And so if this week, every day, you commit to 5 minutes of exercise every day, 7 days per week, the next week that becomes 6 minutes, and the week after that 7, and the week after that 10. And very soon you are exercising regularly every day, because you gave yourself a tweak of the dial daily to get into the sweet spot of exercise, whether that's 30, 40, 45 minutes, an hour. Instead of leaping the chasm, you incrementally shifted and adjusted your life to accommodate for that circle. What can often get stuck, or what can often get people stuck with this exercise, is thinking, what's 5 minutes? 5 minutes is better than 0. Any circle in your life can also demand of you a bit of creativity. So for example, I have circles that are fitness, and a little circle off of that is running. I have a friend circle, and Jen and Shelly and Sherilyn are my best friends. And I have a nature circle. I love to be outside. Well, at least twice per week, I meet with Shelly and Jen and Sherilyn, and we go for a run outside. And so 3 of my circles are handled in one action. You may look at your circles and think, I don't have enough time to do all of these things. However, creatively, you may be able to come up with one action, one activity that you do that encompasses more than one circle. So as you tweak the dial and take action on circles that are currently unfulfilled, one at a time, moving them towards fulfillment, you will find that your baseline level of well-being starts to elevate. And as you elevate that baseline level of well-being, things that currently stress you out, things that currently trigger you and your stress response, will stop doing that. In an executive role, that means you show up composed. And when you show up composed, your IQ elevates. According to Daniel Goleman and Travis Bradbury, who are thought leaders in leadership and emotional intelligence, when colleagues have equal IQ, the one with higher EQ outperforms by 68%. And by satisfying your circles on a regular basis, you're going to elevate your emotion quotient, your EQ. You're going to start to outperform others by 68%. If you like what you heard and you found it helpful, hit the subscribe button.